Vocabio. Master English your way.
I didn't know what to do, so I started to scream. But the girl next to me put her hand over my mouth.
There she is, of course, an authentic 90s scream queen in the title role in that very same year.
I've yelled for communism. I've screamed for communism. I've broken windows for communism.
Looted and murdered. All we could hear were screams, and all we saw were piles of dead bodies.
Adam's family and Adam's family values, and he would scream at me. I would remove the pillows.
He was a dropout from the Disney studio, Walt Kelly was, and his humor.
I'm a high school dropout. I got my GED, and then I went to college.
Reduce teenage pregnancies and high school dropout rates. Could we cut back on teenage drug abuse?
And for knowledge. He was also a high school dropout. Every single one.
They were not college dropouts, I'm sorry, they were Harvard college dropouts. That's different.
It says here, MAG, that's the Microsoft Academic Graph.
And so this like I said, this article had come out. I'm hearing from people.
After my brother's dog and cat, Mags and Gigi, my brother has a deaf pit bull.
On the valuation of the Mag 7. Sorry, actually, no, the privately owned.
The funnel for us. All right, so Meg, when you were running through
clout, and how do we fare on that? Again, not as bad as everyone thinks with us.
On the ground and offered prayers of gratitude that we had made it.
That question, how are you? How are you faring?
Provost Wusu, you've been dealing with some of the challenges there at...
Yes. Okay, great. Hani Farid, everybody.
The fairground breaks even pretty much the rest of the year. They put on a fair that makes some money, but to retain the staff...
First annual lecture for Christian Aid. It is one that we intend...
Well, two reasons, because she was a Christian, but also because he was promised elsewhere.
Yeah. Him on that. You have Democratic moderates like Joe Manchin and Christian Cinema who oppose this move in the Senate right now.
Or brown, or gay, or Muslim, or white, or Christian, or Jewish, or whatever, then you should not be able to be
saying you're just over there with the Christian fundamentalists, and it's kind of it's different. And
for most of her life, she's a recipient of several awards, including the National
Journal. He has been the recipient of many awards, including top advancements and breakthroughs from the brain.
Pleasure and happiness. And Dr. Bloom is a recipient of multiple awards, multiple honors, and he's published all over.
Mystically steer the behavior of the recipient one way or the other, but do humans?
The daughter of one of those recipients of the sari, and the sari had frayed badly over.
And they ran into their first hurdle. They can't get promoted. They have conflict with their manager. And so I would do...
I'm sure a long list of hurdles comes to mind, including costs, labor, sourcing food,
stamps, and WIC coupons. The hurdles to get government assistance that barely provided housing. And
at the nighttime when everybody's gone.
Yeah, while we're running, we hurdle the alligators, because there's a lot of those here too.
Roll right then and get yourself up and go again.
Of what's there is to add to the variety of who's depicted, is to hopefully encourage a greater number of people.
Now, from a whole variety of European countries, including this one, maybe...
We've been celebrating our diversity and the variety of everything, of religions, of languages, of regions, of cultures. To include the left and right varieties, and to explain what
first that could help solve the variety, and I'll get to that. But just so
bringing a backpack or a purse or something else and being able to sling it over those arms, but much more comfortable than the old
numbers, manufacturing numbers. It's probably slowly on their bottoming out.
Me slaying. Yes. You only saw 8 countries that were there from.
It would be much less, I think, subject to the slings and arrows of the universe's whims, but also would enable a kind of
fools to thrive, only the fit survive. Some sling rocks, some rock mics, the cops is out like
coming into the parking lot and attacking people's windshield wipers and pulling off the seal from around
the car industry were manufacturing the windshields, and the windshields are like curved glass, or she was
just like driving on the highway. Your windshield will crack around a little pit if it got hit by us.
Morning pages as sort of a form of spiritual windshield wipers, and I really like that analogy. Kennedy.
Red light, I cannot help but watch through the windshield for the cadence of someone's gait crossing the street in front of me.
I was just trying to find the right combination of sweeteners and things to make it the right texture, make it the right sweetness.
With lighter flowers and stimulating sweeteners. By 1927, people had
sugar. You can use any sweetener that you have in the house. And then we've got Chinese 5-spice.
And then a packet of artificial sweetener from her lunch tray. I'm testing the fragile branch.
Sugar or another sweetener.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to get it in the dish here.
Diaspora staying here, and it's always good to see Indians away from India. I think the connect that they have with the country,
witnessed by the high numbers of Indians studying at elite universities, and the diaspora are occupying seats.
They knew there were lots of Indians in America, and it was cold, and they thought we can sell
and slaves in between whites and Indians. The earliest such encounters occurred during
beating up Indians. So it's an oddly forgotten period of history, and it's not
black on the outside, and the choir says white on the inside.
And the event is if you're all here, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir, but you don't even have to be paying much attention to housing.
A group of choir and vocal.
On a Sunday morning, I'd go up to the choir, and I sit down with the black lady.
To other people, and you make time for choir practice or whatever it is for you. Don't drop that stuff. Find a way to.
In the ski and snowboard world, based on, a lot of the different.
A big jump to clear on a snowboard. Today, as you can tell from this image, snowboarders are pushing.
And asked me if I, have ever run snowboard or ever run snowboard, ever, snowboarded before.
Cool chick that snowboards and loves to model, loves to act.
Percent of the time she entered a snowboard competition, she won. So impressive.
And knows the kind of the basic signposts. 1949, the final communist victory.
As being one of the kind of main philosophical signposts for you to kind of navigate this terrain.
What they are, which is a signpost that we are moving toward where we want to go.
These dates were like signposts on a road I never wanted to be on.
Might not be the end point. It's a signpost, but at least something is going well. But we might
shift tent or staying in a shelter. Maybe it's seeing that student.
In the age of misinformation, making shelter out of the same thing that's causing the chaos.
There are daily story hours, animal shelters across the street. The minister.
Dragonfly disappeared once more beneath the green protection of the sheltering leaf. I stretched out on the grass. And
teaching from basements, from bomb shelters, it gives me hope.
Is realizing this huge disconnect between what school produces versus what.
I realize there's a language disconnect because my black brothers and sisters are saying.
That means that the compressor hose is disconnected. We're going to initiate transfer.
Distortion of critical race theory. Then there's this connecting of those two distortions.
And if so, how did you recognize a disconnect? How did you identify that was happening?
I talked on the air. I mean, I choked up. It was just an incredibly powerful thing for me.
Bronx Expressway, a notorious choke point along I-95. It's one of the most.
I had my whole group chat in a chokehold for months. Tell us a little backstory.
Wasteful, antisocial, car-choked suburbia. Eastwards from Richmond, west across the Newham Market.
Your family, because in the Confucian, you might have a lot of money, but
for me growing up, there was a lot of confusion. I would definitely say I didn't really understand what was happening.
That period of turbulence.
Our confusions about the meaning and the application of civil wars to
often masks a deeper confusion. We chase external approval.
A lot of confusion, uncertainty about what is happening.
A big part of the culture in Australia. We have a charcoal chicken, so that's sort of like the chickens.
We're barbecuing them on charcoal, and we're taking Bulgarian feta cheese and whipping it with.
To like cooking on charcoal, and you've got like smoky grills and that kind of stuff. But
we would carefully place the burning charcoal on the clay tobacco holder. I watched as she blew gently
from a shiny bright gem into charcoal, and why this couldn't happen with other gems.
And I am a great admirer of his work, not least this book, which I think is...
Earned me lots and lots of friends and new admirers. For me, look, I'm a conservative.
Friends, but very close admirers, friends within the police.
Important. And I'm an admirer of Pete Buttigieg, who goes on Fox News.
Both Ed and I admire. I happen to be married.
Postmodern, postmodern fictional magic. Is it doing all right now?
It's not a magic wand that will both get rid of
narrative to arc to that. It starts, it's this kind of magic meeting at a party. They talk for hours.
Trade-offs. And if anyone pretends there's a magic wand that's going to solve all the problems without trade-offs, they are...
can you almost like, can I wave a magic wand and the money will come falling down?
Spirit rover, which was at Gusev crater. And this color coding that I'm referring to is visible in this image.
You can see the crater outside the moon. Armstrong said, I turned off the automatic targeting because...
volcanic field, as well as an impact crater in northern Quebec called the West Clearwater Impact Crater.
Impact, it was at the site of a crater. I'll show you a crater in a moment. But our orbit uncertainty.
Spirit rover, which was at Gusev crater. And this color coding that I'm referring to is visible in this image.
Our home, I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a wannabe barbecue chef with a website and all.
In the public eye with our songs Wannabe and Say You'll Be There and stuff. I made it a point to go in there.
Second kind of storyteller, that is a wannabe, somebody who wants to be in the arts.
Dictators and kind of wannabe dictators have used over the last century.
In the public eye with our songs Wannabe and Say You'll Be There and stuff. I made it a point to go in there.
They're doctors, their receptionists are all trained to include immigrant.
Department is the receptionist. And it was true. So.
And we get to the receptionist and we say, we're here for the lunch. She motions for us to.
He was greeted by the receptionist as soon as he went in the door. James.
My mother, secretary, right? And receptionist, and then a clerk. And so from there.
That can identify lung cancer far more accurately than human eye can in 7 days.
It is a long-running historical cancer, really, on,
is part of the Prostate Cancer Perspective series, brought to you in collaboration with Bayer.
The announcement that the King Charles has cancer. Obviously, I don't really want to speculate too much.
LP, yeah, I mean, bullet buster cancer aside, someday I'll.
Now that might feel non-inclusive to drinkers, but if there was ever a moment in my life I could get my friends to do
the wine, but it's in the mind of the drinker. And I will show 2 different studies. The first
is, and she is a heavy drinker. They would say something about this person's personal story, and
a vegetarian non-drinker because I was like living that high control.
Right? Any whiskey, I'm not a whiskey drinker, but any whiskey drinkers in the house, or from people who are familiar, Wendy sashimi was.
Here speaking with the astronauts aboard Starliner. He funnels all the information.
Mission assurance and NASA Chief Astronaut Joe Acalba, although not providing opening remarks, but here to answer questions.
Or doctor or astronaut. I could tell even then that through the body language.
By 1972, 12 US astronauts had been to the moon.
We have had a number of flights with astronauts who've stayed on board with us for 12 months at a time.
But I found that, for example, in the Russian fundamentalist, without giving...
is a really interesting one. You've hinted at it, which is almost like crudely stated.
Did kind of hint at this, is that the deals are brokered.
Is revoked if there is a hint of coercion. That is at least what The Economist says.
We do. We have Hindu. We have a few. We have Mandarin.
It's still within the realm of framing and smallness, but the sistering logic is something
other groups. But in my mind, this is even the smallness of the number is what makes it so scary, because it's so.
Innovation lives in the smallness right alongside us, all 8 billion axes.
Hands in the way they are. I love the smallness, that it's not so crazy like, you know.
Well, I think that was extremely important. So smallness then becomes also a chance for different.
Means the concept of keeping avenues open for journalists and the public to.
But people there had another avenue to the divine, spirit possession. The root of these.
Walked up University to Lemon Avenue, which is streets in North Dallas by the Love Field Airport.
Lack as a society to actively find avenues where our voice can be heard. We don't.
Obviously, different avenue than you did, apparently, thankfully.
The new experience if I'm not jumping over trolleys in the aisle for whatever reason anyone would do that. Come on.
Right system, when you go to the supermarket and you fill your trolley full of food, that tells you immediately, oh dear, high.
ਉੱਥੋਂ ਵਾਪਸ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਟਰਾਲੀ ਆਈ ਟਰਾਲੀ ਦਾ ਸੰਗਲ ਜਿਹਾ ਫੜਿਆ ਤੇ
the nutritional value of the average shopping trolley and shopping basket. So doing that through dialogue is
the driverless car equivalent of the trolley problem, which is a well-known kind of ethical dilemma.
Situation where I was in a restaurant with producers and there was a bombing 2 blocks away in Chelsea, New York.
Of Harewood. David has worked as a film producer for more than 20 years and was the chairman of the Harewood House Trust.
And I was in a meeting with the producer who asked me if I had any other books in the works.
We used to be a carrot producer for supermarkets. We had to stop because the system got too...
Hi everyone, it's Farah from the Intelligence Squared team here. I'm the producer of tonight's event. And as
Face, SendDirect, and Workday that would streamline the way CUNY serves its students.
When it's starts a workday at the same time, but the scientists have to change when it's starts a workday at the same time, but the scientists have to change.
And then he would go through his workday. And so he was implementing a single focus.
All the different benefits and perks that allow us to kind of balance our workday and kind of have that downtime when we need it, which I think is super.
The next time I threaded a hook through a barracuda fillet and dropped it overboard, it carried new weight. I knew.
Okay, so now what happens is the Filey lander is tumbling, right? Because of course it didn't hit perfect.
And tataki is essentially a beef fillet that is seared, marinated.
So the way you make it is you get a catfish fillet, rub it with olive oil, then put on your favorite Creole spice.
Dark chocolate, it's rich, juicy, or having a fillet versus a ribeye. Fillets tend to be very linear.
Talks about, which basically goes around and interviews Londoners and gets their view of the economy.
Imagine, here's Copernicus, he's talking to the Londoners and he's telling them, it turns out...
From here, and I'm a real old Londoner. And I grew up in London. And
super happy. It was like, oh my God, you know, Londoners love art. This is like the most successful opening we've ever had.
What they share very much is the desire to be at the table. Because what middle
form of compromise between our desire for international law and our recognition
by the needless desires of people who live in the city. And
presence of power and greed and their desire to kind of stay in office,
or kind of deep-seated desire to clamp down on mass politics to control.
Across the ocean and can be followed with the same ease with which a terrestrial explorer would follow.
Altogether. However, the simplicity and ease of an open-ended question could truly...
Not the UK or US that has a very, ease of doing business and good rule of law. You really do need the government.
Is for Allen and Gardner to ease the satellite down into the payload bay
and secure it in place.
A playlist is created, recommendations are given. Ease of use is incredibly valuable.
Then Americans died in 20 years in Vietnam.
Ho Chi Minh, we have SEO Vietnam. We launched a scholars program, just as
why the U.S. government got into the Vietnam War, and also the reasons that it presented to the public about why it got
Nicaragua or Vietnam. But now, well, we have no more of those.
Grew up in the late 60s, early 70s. Vietnam War is raging. By the time he's 30.
Care? The social service agency shuttered its doors. Without me.
Because a brown man was painting the shutters in 1975. A brown man.
उन्होंने पुट्ठी गिनती शुरू कर देना जिਵੇਂ स्पेस शटर जांदियां ਉੱਤੇ 9 10 oh 10.
They had identified a closed shuttered school that they wanted to have
reserved in a glass case only to shutter at the first sign of difficulty. It is a must.
Plaster technique. So it started crumbling in his lifetime.
Recently, gambling adverts were simply plastered across those broadcasts to a captive audience.
Of casting plaster inside balloons that were then sort of manipulated.
So that we could begin the process of plaster jacketing. So those white bits you can see in the image, that's not...
Says, David, I must admit, I don't see it plastered across the front pages of the newspapers or...
Concern was the large amount of manure left behind on the streets. On average,
real-life environmental concerns that manure runoff from intensive poultry farms
worth of horse manure was just sitting there. And
to enrich the soil with pig manure. Over time, barns were added as part of this process into the...
Back to using composted animal manure to replace nutrients in the soil, and so they refused to...
Oh, there you go. Sorry, my dog was barking. So...
means, but again, with the woody bark of a liana full of beta-carotene.
Populations. The Tabernath iboga root bark of Central West Africa was used by the Bwiti.
They're an amazing breed of dog. They bark loudly. They act as a guardian and not a herder.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, my dog was barking. So...
1994, whereas current research interests include wireless sensing systems, wearable and body sensor network.
A show for us called Wireless, which literally half the story is about what...
He checked up with the wireless, so that we have left Kosovo, but he didn't know what...
It also has communications, wireless communication and storage on there. And
flag point for conservative politics, not just for Catholics, but for evangelicals. And
beside Sunni, Shia, and Ahmadiyya Muslims, Catholics and Protestants, Hindus.
Years of religious warfare between Protestants and Catholics and different sects of, each religion.
That way, who described it as a day of mourning. Catholics were not happy with it. They saw it as a Protestant holiday. And the
watcher. And then he wrote about how Catholics, and he's a watcher.
Or a pulp natural method, and I really like Costa Rica. One of the concepts that we've...
San Juan, I've just been there in Costa Rica, really sorry, I absolutely love Costa Rica. San Juan has got nothing to speak for. It beats Mexico.
The United Nations just...
Oscar Arias elected in Costa Rica. Ortega elected in Nicaragua.
Puerto Rico or Hawaii or Costa Rica. Costa Rica, I'm going to go with that.
Okay, number one, Costa Rica. Perfect. Thank you.
English. I was not too picky on the destination, and I get an opportunity to come to Vegas 12 years.
Revealing the final and third mind pit of destination obsession. See if you relate.
Wife and I are on our way to a destination 8,000 miles away, to a place that's about as...
fashion in an Aristotelian, like, here is a destination, here's the beginning, here's the destination.
Moon into distant planets, movies like Destination Moon, Forbidden Planet, those types.
Passing high electric current through cesium atoms.
A plasma has very different properties.
We're standing on top of the reactor. Atoms are being split. Minds are being blown.
A particle with less mass than the atom as a whole. And it was less than 50 years after that.
She was looking at the various layers of carbon atoms and seeing what might happen if you stir in bits.
First time decoded these patterns showing where atoms are inside a crystal. That meant scientists could map.
I felt like I had a ring, like a Saturn-like ring around me of protection. I felt like, no, I'm doing them.
To this Intelligence Squared event with Anthony Satin. He is an author, journalist, and broadcaster.
So we have GeneSat and PharmaSat, NanoSail. There's a sail involved.
Oh, about Satine and what I related to about her. I mean, I too am a dying whore.
I felt like I had a ring, like a Saturn-like ring around me of protection. I felt like, no, I'm doing them.
My name's Bill Edgar and I am the coffin confessor. Sit down, shut up, or fuck off.
Instead, we tend to put people in these giant coffin-like donuts, where you hear really loud.
Into this very small, almost like coffin-like environment, and that's an emotion.
Market that put the final nail in the coffin of Irish whiskey at the start of the 20th.
And all the way around him are the coffins of his servants who were killed at the time of.
Vocabio. Available in Google Play. Download, discover, improve your English.